Tomorrow, furloughed federal workers will miss their second paycheck as the shutdown stretches past the 1-month mark. But on CNBC this morning, billionaire Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross didn't seem to grasp what everyone's so upset about, helping to cement the idea that the administration doesn't get it.
Mr. Secretary, there are reports that there are some federal workers who are going to homeless shelters to get food.
Well, I know they are, and I don't really quite understand why.
At the White House this evening, Trump struggled to explain Ross's remarks away.
Local people know who they are when they go for groceries and everything else. And I think what Wilbur was probably trying to say is that they will work along. I know banks are working along. If you have mortgages, the mortgagees, the folks collecting the interest and all of those things, they work along. And that's what happens in time like this.
Trump indicated that he'd sign a bill to fund the government if it included what he called a prorated down payment on the wall. On Capitol Hill, Democrats are almost sure to reject that idea. But Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell began a new round of negotiations after 2 earlier votes failed today. You can tell that members of Congress are beginning to sense what the Trump administration doesn't, that the shutdown is starting to have an impact on national security.
Protect our national security by providing financial security for the men and women of the FBI. Fund the FBI now.
It's not just law enforcement.
Not only are we aviation's first responders, we are the last line of defense. And we are going to work today understanding that the layers of security that need to be there, the layers of security that were put in place after 9/11 when the TSA was created, are not there.
Rachel Abraham is a TSA officer at Reagan National Airport near D.C. She spoke at an event held by Virginia Senator Mark Warner yesterday at a brewery that's having trouble getting beers approved for sale because of the shutdown.
There's nowhere in this world that you are expected to work for free, except apparently the federal government.
If she and other national security federal workers walked off the job en masse, they could grind American life and the American economy to a halt and actually put enough pressure on Washington to end the shutdown. That's a ton of power. The problem is they're not allowed to use it.
When we signed up, we were told that, federal employees aren't permitted to strike.
That it's illegal.
It was illegal.
How does that feel, that you can't even really express yourself on this?
It's an awful feeling because you have no voice, you have no outlet in order to get your point across to let people know that you want to get paid.
If a strike wasn't illegal, do you think it would be a good idea?
In a heartbeat. When things stop, people listen. Right now, nobody's listening to us, so no negotiations are happening. If they could speak and they could strike, everybody would listen. People want to go on vacation, businessmen want to get from point A to point B, family members want to make their visits. Really, commerce would stop.
The last time a group of federal workers tried to strike was in 1981, when 13,000 air traffic controllers called off the job for better pay and working conditions. President Ronald Reagan fired 11,000 of them. That's because federal workers are subject to all kinds of laws that private workers are not, some of which restrict their freedom of speech. Sherry Cannon is an attorney who specializes in these kinds of laws. She also used to be a federal worker herself.
The Anti-Deficiency Act, which is an early 20th century act, states that federal agencies, executive agencies, cannot spend money that they don't have in advance of an appropriation. That's very different from the private sector where your pay is clearly dependent on whether your business is making any money or your employer has got money to pay you.
There are also a few laws restricting federal workers' rights to some extent. I mean, the right to speak out, the right to strike. Can you tell me about those?
Specifically, there are statutes in the federal statutes that say that federal workers do not have the right to strike. Other issues that might arise in this situation where people start getting frustrated and tensions boil over is the Hatch Act and making political statements that are partisan.
Why the ban on striking?
It's a public safety issue. The public policy reason is you don't want people that are entrusted to protect the people of this country and the government of this country and our officials of this country from simply walking out en masse. I mean, you'd have complete chaos at airports.
There's another option, though. They can call out sick. There have been reports of USDA food inspectors skipping work at such high rates, the agency had to crack down on call-outs and require workers to provide a doctor's note as proof. And we're already seeing abnormally high numbers of unscheduled absences among TSA agents. Yesterday, the agency said it had a national rate of 7.5% of unscheduled absences, compared to 3% 1 year ago.
Nationwide, I'm getting reports that a lot of people are taking second jobs or having to call out for a couple of days in order to make enough money to make it for a couple of more days at work.
Right. So people don't even have enough gas money, say, to get to work.
Yeah, it's going to become even worse the longer this shutdown goes on. People are going to start quitting their jobs and looking for jobs that actually give them a paycheck.